Hey, I'm Deriv'era and the third video about my PSP game, and the last one. Game was released on both Steam and itch.io, PSP version is on itch, and PC version is on Steam. Game is called Locum Tenens, it's a direct inspiration from Zero Tolerance. It has 5 inventory slots, flat levels and elevators between them. In comparison with Zero Tolerance, I improved a lot of stuff, like ability to drop a weapon. In the T you needed to shoot all your ammunition into a wall to free up an inventory slot. I added an ability to scroll inventory in both directions and 60 FPS. Zero Tolerance on Sega Mega Drive worked at 10 FPS maximum. I didn't know anything better, it literally was my first FPS in my life. I didn't have a PC to play Doom or Wolfenstein, I only had Sega. So what was the most difficult part of porting the game to Steam? I am giving you a second to guess. If you're saying it was graphics and operating system API, integration with the OS, switching all of the PSP functions to use PC API and all of this stuff, then you are wrong. That was the easiest part I did in few days. I set up OpenGL 4.1 because 4.1 works on a virtual machine and 4.2 and later doesn't. I wrote a shader that receives all the parameters that PSP's GPU receives in my game, rewrote some functions and that's it. The only problem was that I've been rendering polygons directly from places where I needed to render something, like an enemy or a wall, instead of creating and using an abstract handle. PSP's GPU allows you to render polygons from RAM, but only old OpenGL versions allow you to do so on PC, and it's extremely slow. On PC you need to load your geometry, basically polygons, into a GPU and render them by their handles. Combination of such buffers, because one geometry uses a few buffers, called VAO in OpenGL. What I should have been done is to create a handle that for PSP will store all my data pointers for rendering and render by this handle. On PC I would just store VAO buffer pointer in this handle, and this would be the fastest approach. Instead I create VAO on the fly and then remove it. Because to make it in the right way, it will take a lot of time to rewrite entire rendering system of the game. I've tested my solution on my Core Duo with GTX 660 rig, and it works well. The only performance issues I experienced was under Linux at X11 with Intel drivers on my laptop with integrated graphics. Maybe it wasn't even my game but X11, I'm not sure. I'm certain it's related to Intel video drivers under Linux. Steam Deck works very well after some fixes, more about this in a second, and by statistics all my Linux users are playing with Steam Deck anyway. So Steam Deck. At launch Steam Deck just gave people black screen. I didn't want to buy Steam Deck. I still don't want to buy Steam Deck. I don't need it, so I didn't test it directly, and from my experience, I would say if you are not experienced with Linux, don't release your game on Linux. Steam's Proton will do better work in running your Windows game, especially with the custom engine. So how exactly I compiled for Linux? I looked for the minimal Steam's requirements for Linux, and it was Ubuntu 20.04. I've installed it onto a virtual machine, installed guest editions, and compiled SDL3 from scratch. SDL is an abstraction library that hides terrible API of Windows from you and makes coding for Windows possible. Technically, your game will also work on other operating systems if you use SDL, but for me it's primarily to avoid using Windows libraries. Then I copied all the game files onto a flash drive and tested it under my Linux Mint machines, 2 of them. It worked without issues, so it was basically a release candidate for Steam. And after the release I found out that it displayed a black screen on Steam Deck for all Steam Deck users, because both Ubuntu 20 and latest Mint are using X11. X11 is 41 years old Windows manager on Linux. It was updated over time, but it has old foundations, at least I assume so. It's really bad on high DPI screens, like a laptop with 4K resolution for example. You will have a lot of small text despite the OS zoom. X11 is widely spread in Linux distributions, but recently it started to be replaced by more modern system called Wayland. Modern Ubuntu and guess who are using Wayland. In addition to Wayland, Steam Deck is using GameScope to run games. So it's like 2 additional layers that try to mess up your game's view in comparison to how you would normally run your game on Linux Mint, for example. Wayland doesn't work on virtual machine, and Linux distributions with Wayland don't support old hardware. For testing your game on Linux, you will need at least the latest Ubuntu on a real machine. So I've installed Ubuntu onto my laptop and I was able to reproduce this black screen. Thankfully, issue wasn't in game scope or Steam Deck itself. When SDL3 gets a list of resolutions, the list is different for Wayland and X11 for the same machine. On X11 it provides all possible modes. Each screen mode has width, height and refresh rate, so you have a lot of resolutions with the same width, height, but different refresh rates. To get rid of width height duplicates, I've been selecting only resolutions with 60 FPS. It worked fine everywhere before this moment, and I'm not the first person who is doing it this way. Because on Wayland you get resolutions with maximum refresh rate and no 60 FPS. My laptop has a 120Hz screen, so it was 190 for some reason, but you got the point. The final list of resolutions game used was empty. So I've added a selector code that picks the maximum refresh rate and cuts down the list by it. And it worked. This actually fixed Steam Deck. Funny part is you can't actually build your production version of the game on the latest Ubuntu, because this way it won't work on older Ubuntus and maybe even some Steam Decks. Because with this modern Ubuntu you get the latest development libraries. And if you try to run your code on older Ubuntu, it will fail because of the C library version. On older distributions, library versions stop being updated, but these versions are still being used. For example, I can't install latest MintOS onto my Core Duo PC because GTX 660 has no support on latest MintOS NVIDIA drivers, so I still needed to compile everything under Ubuntu 20 on the virtual machine. And latest Ubuntu is just a must-have for testing Wayland. Steam Deck's users were happy. I have a feeling that 3 refunds I got on Steam came exactly because of Steam Deck black screen issue. So do you think that Linux part was the hardest? No. The actual answer about it is more boring than you could have think of. It's settings. In before PC release, settings were managed by the emulator, but for PC you need full settings support. So I spent around 60 hours implementing settings, more than 1 week, and I hated it to the roots because it's the most boring thing to implement, but I couldn't release the game without it. Input system that manages gamepad, keyboard and mouse became a huge component, and I spent some time searching for good input solutions because something always didn't work as intended. Now when you switch from gamepad to keyboard, even small intro tutorials switching text accordingly. Menu itself took a lot of time to make. I didn't have any UI management system, I still have none, better not to talk on how it works. Initially I wanted to release the Steam version with PSP files together to provide an ability to run Steam game folder on your PSP like a PSP game. It's possible in theory, and it was an appealing idea, but I found out that there is a problem with music. PSP is using Sony's Attract 3 music format, and PSP has official hardware decoder for it, and you can't legally not just write a software decoder for it, but also you can't ship these music files together with an application that is supposed to be working on architecture with no legal support for this format. I'm not a legal guy, I just decided to dodge the bullet that is not even in a Mac. PC version is using OGG files, it's an open format. It's the only difference in media files between PSP and PC versions. I've been thinking to release PSP version files as a separate downloadable content, but all of such ideas need time. Releasing something on Steam is not the same simple process as releasing something on itch.io. I have it on my huge list of to-do things. One day it may happen, but no promises. I know some people who simply bought both versions of the game on both stores. So did the game make at least some money? I didn't expect it to make any money, it was a passion project. Why would I spend so much time to make something that brings no money and I have no care about? Working a normal development job actually brings 100 times more cash. I'm not even kidding about this multiplier. Let's start from the promotion I did. Promoting this game was difficult as hell, because it's not just very niche, it has not the most appealing visuals. Even if there is a big amount of people who found visuals good for its style and told me that it's beautiful. And I share this opinion, I like visuals in my game. Game overall feels in a way how I intended it to be, plus PSP's restrictions. And the restrictions of my knowledge about PSP I had when I made the major part of the game. With my experience now I can do much better. I've started wishlist farming with shorts on YouTube and TikTok. TikTok banned me after a week and didn't show my videos to anyone. YouTube provided stable 1,500 watches. I've been doing 3 videos per week, nothing fancy. I would even say low effort. I registered a new TikTok account and started to watch TikTok from my phone to make myself look like a legit user, and I need to tell you, aside from some game dev and Blender videos, it's so freaking bad. It tries to feed you something outside of your area of interests all the time, like a boy putting his father's face into the soap, and it's not even AI slope. How degenerate you need to be to watch this kind of content? I literally don't understand. I don't even understand why people rage watch it. I just close TikTok and don't touch it for a day. And when I abandoned the idea of short videos as a form of promotion, I felt relief that I don't need to open TikTok anymore. Anyway, my 15 short videos didn't bring much. Even the trailer on YouTube did better. I also tried to buy Twitter Premium, out of all things, for a month, and commented everywhere because with Premium your comments are shown higher in the list and are more visible. This way I gathered 2,000 views on my pinned post in my profile about the game, and it provided some wishlist. I would say it works, but you need to spend really a lot of time on Twitter and avoid sloppy content it pushes onto you. You need to find specific content to comment that will promote your game. At some point I stopped even promoting PSP version of the game and concentrated around upcoming PC release. After months I stopped paying for Premium because amount of effort and feedback doesn't match. Nothing much to say about Blue Sky, Mastodon and Tumblr. Blue Sky had impact, but mostly because it's my go-to platform to scroll and post personal stuff. I didn't do any intentional promotion over there. Also, Mr. Suggiano mentioned the game again on his channel about emulation and retro stuff. This time my game got more screen time, and I definitely saw people coming from his channel to my itch.io, and well, some bought the game. Not many, but it helped. Thank you, Mr. Suggiano. Subscribe to Mr. Suggiano. And in the end, I didn't reach even 200 wishlists on Steam. This is a bad statistics in comparison to what people usually get. When the game got released, I sold a few copies and that's it. Actually, Steam did much better promotion after the release, providing up to 20 wishlists a day every day. But they are mostly accumulate, and I can only hope that they will convert during the sales. And I wish I could enter the winter holiday sale, but you can enter sales only after months since the game release. I didn't even know about that. I planned to hop on winter holiday sale from the day zero. So in the end, I paid 100 euros to Steam to be able to release my game, and at the moment I almost returned this money back. That's the Steam reality of the game that took almost 1,000 hours to make. Itch.io at this stage is doing better than Steam thanks to Reddit and forums. I've posted link and the description of Locum Tenens on various retro forums, and this gave me constant traffic to my itch.io. Also, it gave me the most weird complaint that I ever received. Complaint that my game is using open libraries free for commercial use. I mean PSP SDK directly. Honestly, I would donate some money to the creators of PSP SDK if I had some money, but even official PSP SDK website doesn't have a donation button. You probably need to track developers down to give them some cash if you want to. And I donate to people who create free stuff, and I buy licenses for indie developed software like Ace, Sprite or Armory Paint. So this take sounds even more ridiculous. I will just leave you with these thoughts. On Reddit I just made a post in r/PSP without even expecting something. It was the first time I used this website, and Reddit post at r/PSP gathered more than 3,000 upvotes and warm welcome of the community. Reddit, among all social networks, was the best by a big margin. I'm not sure will someone from r/PSP watch this video, but big thanks to you. I felt your support. And now, after forums and Reddit, I got up to 50 user visits on itch.io daily without me doing anything. And approximately up to 2 sales a day. Sometimes it's 0. I made a website, but not soon enough. Not really about the game, but in a shape of a retro blog. For itch and Steam game pages, the external links directed to them are very important. It helps the game to be found more frequently in search engines. I realized that besides forums and strange websites who mentioned my game out of nowhere, thank you, I need to get some press coverage just to have these external links. And if no press covers my game, all I need is to become press myself. Genius. I will write articles for my blog from time to time, and that's it. Maybe next year it will bring additional traffic and promote my future projects. I don't know, it feels like I gather crumbs all over the internet to be noticed. I sent my game to Steam curators as well. I didn't know such thing even exists, and at least 2 of them left a curator mention of my game, and it gave some wishlists, but nothing crazy. Like many people said, releasing a game is a success by itself, and numbers don't matter much. I disagree, they matter, but I can't deny that it's definitely a life-level achievement. Each IO sold, let me take a look. Shit, where is my itch.io? 62 copies of the game. Gross revenue is $207. I assume it's not full sum, and each will take their 10% cut from it. Steam sold, let me check Steam to be precise, 35 copies with 3 refunds. Net revenue is $87, but I still didn't figure out is it before or after 30% Steam's cut. So, a conclusion. Can you actually make PSP games of this size on pure enthusiasm? Multiple projects, not just a singular release just for fun. Pure enthusiasm, because if be real, FL Studio that I use for music alone cost €240 plus some paid scenes and effects. Game barely returned money for this software. I don't think that enthusiasm is enough long term. Lesson here is that your game should be worth playing on PC. Probably more than Locum Tenens is from the perspective of the general public. I personally think that it is worth playing on PC, but I couldn't make a lot of people to believe it as well. It doesn't matter will the game be good on PSP or not. PSP's community won't buy it on a scale to justify it. Realistically, only 1 from 100 Reddit upvoters bought the game. The only reason to make PSP games is enthusiasm, and I had the enthusiasm, but this game killed a lot inside of me, honestly. I don't even feel the same person after making it. For 3 last months, I worked on it almost without any weekends because I thought it might be life-changing in terms of sufficient money returns so I can switch to do something I enjoy doing in my life. Because I'm burning through my savings and this period, and I will run out of money at some point. Only having no job allowed me to make this game so fast. It was stressful, it was really stressful, but working a regular development job, I still hate much more. If I make my next game for PSP, will it be more popular? Probably. I'm better in handling PSP's hardware now, I'm more popular and better at marketing. And I would make even Locum Tenens differently with my current knowledge if I started from scratch. Will I make my next game for PSP? I don't know. During this period I bought PS Vita and thought maybe I should switch to it. Vita is an amazing piece of hardware. I had 70 hours of Digimon Story Hackers memories in 2 weeks. And it's amazing. While thinking about the next game ideas, I found myself increasing the scope at least twice from what I would do for PSP because of abilities of PS Vita. It has shaders on the level of DirectX 9, so you literally can create really nice looking games using it. Indie style games, not even retro games. And that's the problem. I just understand that my project for PC or Vita will be too big to make fast enough. Instead of 1000 hours, I would spend 2000 hours. And I'm afraid it will flop anyway. I don't want to spend years making it, I'm not even sure I have these years. I'm not even sure this world has these years, to be honest. Starting long-term project in 2026 sounds crazy to me. Something I'm not willing to commit myself to. Maybe I will just drop game development. Lately I've been thinking too much about it. It's not beneficial for my mental health, it's not beneficial for my wallet. It's more like an idea that if you make something, something will change in your life and everything will become ponies and rainbows. It's some form of escapism to escape thinking and boredom, to run from yourself and magical thinking. It's more like I don't know what else to do, so I create games, I guess. Well, I've started making a new PSP game that already got labeled colonoscopy simulator. So you can't run from yourself and you can't run from colonoscopy while running from yourself. It will use better technological level with lights and some other effects I didn't use in Locum Tenens, better rendering techniques, and will look better on PC. It will be in full 3D. And scope is shorter, so it will take less time to make, hopefully. So, Happy New Year, or Christmas, or Hanukkah, or whatever is happening right now. I don't really track it. I track only my working time. On these holidays, I will just get drunk to blackout, not even sure on which day, like I usually do, and then I will regret doing so for the first half of the next year, like it usually happens for me with heavy alcohol. I'm a very predictable person. See you in 2026. I actually have some stuff to film, to make new videos, and stuff that is not related to PSP.